Well, today I'm here with Max Whitehead. It's a privilege and an honour to spend some time with you. Max, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Oh, I wish I was the person who's hosting this show, but it's a joint activity. And last time we spoke about not just a brain drain, but a total drain. And today I'd love to explore the concept of legislation versus leadership. Because we've got a lot of legislations coming in that's driving up the costs, and people are finding it difficult to employ the right people. And then the question is, if you can't make it work, just go overseas. I think that's part of the philosophy we had in the conversation last week.
Well, there's a lot of temptation for the young ones to go offshore, but they're looking for new opportunities. But the other factor is there's a lot of our stayed people, our gifted people who've got businesses running here and whatever, who are now also tempted to take off. Why? Because life's becoming very difficult here, and it's very difficult to get labour, it's very difficult to get skilled labour, it's very difficult to get anything. So it's really, really tough. And like people are saying, where's a better option? And moving off across the ditch. Now, legislation, well, it couldn't get a worse time. Michael Wood is the Minister right now of Employment Relations, and he's going to introduce it's got a wonderful name, the Fair Pay Bill.
Huh.
So the bill has been through Parliament once. It's been through the Select Committee, it's been up for public submissions, and there's been plenty. It's about to come back, I think, in a month or 2 months. It'll be law by the end of the year. Now, what the Fair Pay Bill does is takes over the negotiation and the control of all terms and conditions for employment. So that means the parties lose control. So the unions will take it over from the employees. No choice, folks. It's taken from you. And guess what? Employers, if you don't get a representative, the government appoints one. The government. And guess what? The government, if the unions and their employer advocates don't agree, the government make the decision on what's best for your business and what's best for your employment. So employees and employers have lost control, and that's not going to help them to think about staying in New Zealand.
So what's this called, the fair pay, the fair wage?
Well, it's fair for workers, because the sole objective of this is to lift wages.
Okay, so you lift wages. I was talking to a gentleman just this week, and he is running an outsourced bureau. And his pitch is very simple. Why pay $21.50 for a resource when I can give it outsourced to you from as low as $6 an hour? Now, all of a sudden, we're having opportunities because the world is flat. The world is flat and the world is fast. I can outsource a lot of my administrative tasks to people who are in what we might term as third world countries, where the wage structure is so low there that for us here in New Zealand, it makes it cost effective. Surely this fair wage bill is now creating a disharmony that's going to again push employers to seek alternatives. It's going to kill the opportunities for young people coming into the marketplace that can deliver on these tasks.
A lot of the business owners are saying, I'm out of here. Really, I've lost control. Even the government is saying, even yesterday, if you wish to import some skilled employment, then you're going to have to pay them a minimum of $27 an hour. $27 an hour.
Okay.
So that's a minimum, and that's what do they call it? They don't call it. It's not the minimum wage. It's their living standard wage or something that's been invented as a privilege. So that is saying to employers, I'm going to have to increase my costs. I'm going to have to compete with my competitors. It's not just feasible for me to actually keep on going in business here.
Well, okay, let's take the situation that you are an employer. You've got a workforce that's already there working for you. Can we explore another option? We've got legislative, which is by law forcing us down a pathway. What about leadership? Can we look at leadership and say, what can we do from a leadership perspective to at least persuade those who are currently working for us to stay working for us?
And that's a very good example. Let me tell you a quick story. Guy rang up the other day and he said, look, our competitors approached me and said, hey, come across with us. And they offered me such a beautiful package. I've signed the contract. Do I have to work out the full notice? I said, well, yeah. And then he rang me again. He said, I've gone back to my employers saying I'm put my resignation. And my employers said, well, how much money they offer you? And he said, so-and-so. And they said, we will give you, wait for this, how much was it? We will give you $35,000 cash. Oh, it'll be taxed if you stay a further 6 months with us.
That's almost like a signing on bonus that we'd hear of in the States. This is unusual for New Zealand.
He is a very nice guy, and he came to me, what am I to do? He said, I feel so guilty. So he went back to the other employer, and the other employer said, look, that's a lot of money. And he says, well, I'm not sure what to do, but I think I'll have to go with you. But that's what my boss has told me to do. So he went back to his boss and said, look, I've signed a contract, and I feel honoured to do that. He's a good man, and he's good for his honour. And the boss said, we'll increase it to 45 to stay for 6 months.
Huh.
So he got $45,000 cash. But what I'm saying to you, that's not the way to fix every problem. A lot of people these days, let's talk about flexibility. They want flexible hours. They want, their children are very important. They want certain time off for certain factors. Employers are now meeting those needs. And so, a lot of young people today, money's not the sole objective, Elias. They really need other factors as well. So you can work with your employees if you're out there and find what they are.
So I think a little while ago we had a conversation, maybe it's on one of these recorded calls, maybe it was outside of that, where we talked about the fact that legislation here in New Zealand has put us into such an overhead with public holidays, with a minimum guaranteed holiday leave time, a doubling of the sick leave pay, etc. Now, there's legislation, I get that, and we're obliged to fill and fit from a business framework within that legislative frame that we have. What can business owners do if they want to be inventive? Can they just turn around and say, hey, look, you can have as much holiday as you want, because people are craving for recognition, they're craving for acknowledgement, or are they just tied with the legislation?
No, that's a good question. Now, the legislation is minimum terms and conditions, so that means that the employer can go above that if they want to. Now, the Fair Pay Bill, that will be the same. That'll be minimum terms and conditions. But believe me, I tell you what, employers will be at their maximum to say what else they can do. And the Fair Pay Bill will be restrictive on flexibility. So the hours of work got to be specified. So what hours, what days, whatever, these things are mandatory, required for flex, and that'll hold back the flexibility, which will be pretty damning for employees. And the boss will go, I'm sorry, but I can't give you that flexibility anymore.
So flexibility, if you talk about flexibility and I think about places of employment, then obviously if you have a brick and mortar type business, then your place of employment is theoretically at bricks and mortar. But now you say you can work from home, and maybe there's more flexibility. You can work 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 days a week from home. But do some of the obligations under the Occupational Health and Safety Act then start to apply and affect you as the employer, not just the employee?
Well, good question. My goodness. That's why I like you being here, because and that, in fact, is very, very true. The employer is still responsible for the worker if they're working from home. So the employers out there, look, if you're listening right now, what I need you to do is to go and explore, put some questionnaires to your employees, ask them, is their seating position correct? Is their keyboard at the right height? Is there also lots of things so they don't get... ergonomics are very important, but you've got no control over it, and that's the difficulty. So and you can still be held accountable for being lack of diligence in terms of following up. Should you go and visit your workers at home? Now that's imposing on both parties.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Max, I'm going to tease you again. Because you've now brought another topic, and I'm going to suggest it's so big that we're going to have to come back and talk this through. And the topic is now related to, you've given your employees the opportunity to work from home. They're now isolated. You've asked the question, should you as the employer go and visit them? Well, the big problem is that if you isolate them for long periods of time, you remove them from the community that they were in within the workforce. That can lead to some mental health issues.
Oh, mental health. Folks, see you next week.